Hello, it's Karen Burniston here with my monthly designer challenge video. The theme this month is autumn, and I've decided to combine our tree die with our house pivot panels and then double those pivot panels to get this really long row of houses. And you can check out all of our die designs at karenburniston.com. Okay, first up, if you hear construction noises, that's because next door a new roof is going on. So I apologize for that. That's what those nail sounds are. And then the other thing is that you can't actually do this technique with any of our pivot panels die sets. So definitely take this technique and try it with some of the others. Okay, to make a double pivot panels card, you really need a 5x7 landscape card. So that means you need 14 inches long by 5 inches tall. I don't have cardstock that big, so instead I cut two panels. One of them is 5x7.5 and then scored at that 1/2 inch mark, and then the other one is 5x7. And by using some adhesive on that little flap, then I can actually create a 5x7 landscape card. I'll start by decorating the inside of the card, and I'm going to use the tree from our tree pop-up die set. Now, a nice feature of this die set is that there is a leaf set that is just a single piece, and you glue that up behind the branches and it'll fill in that tree very quickly. But then you also have a die included in the set that will cut 6 individual little leaves that can be used to kind of further embellish the tree, and I went ahead and did all of that out of fall colors. To create the stitched hills across the bottom, I used our Nature Edges die set. Now I'll switch to using our House Pivot Panels die set to make the pop-up that goes on the inside. Okay, I've die cut the pivot panels twice out of a pretty plaid patterned paper. And then I'm going to find the little tabs on the left side. So that's going to be the 2 tabs above and below the final house, and then right next to the final house. And then what I want to do is actually cut away most of the house. I'm going to leave a little bit to act as a tab to join the 2 pieces together. Okay, switching to my other pivot panels, for this one I'm going to work on the right side, and I'm actually going to remove everything that's past the little panels themselves. So that means both the tabs and the final house, and I'm just going to cut straight across. And then what I'll do is actually connect those to each other using those tabs on the first one. So that would be some adhesive on top of the small tab, all along that little partial tab that I created by cutting one of the houses, and then the other tab. Now I'm going to turn and put these face down on top of each other so I make sure they line up nicely, then fold those tabs over and onto the back of that other piece. And I'm realizing that on the house one I can probably take away the portion that's the roof, so I don't have to try and line it up along the back of the roof. And also on this bottom tab I noticed that it's a little bit wider than the area that it's supposed to fit, so I can trim that to fit as well. But the idea is that those 3 tabs are going to join the 2 halves together so that I have one nice long pivot panels set. Okay, just like if I was doing a single pivot panels, I want to find all the folds now. So the first fold I'm going to find is in between the 2 panels, and I like to work that fold in both directions, and I'll do that on both sets. So in between the 2 panels, work that fold in both directions. Out on the ends, you'll fold the in between the final house and the panel, plus the 2 little tabs and the tab out on the end. So that's just the normal folding as if you were doing a pivot panels die set. And do that on both ends. And then bring everything back out to flat again. That was just about finding the folds. Adding these long pivot panels to the card is exactly the same as if you were doing a single, which just means get the center fold directly over the fold of the card. It can go anywhere along there. I've decided to come down closer to the bottom so that I have room for extra trees and things behind my houses. Then I just want to make sure that I leave everything in the center lined up while I add adhesive to my side tabs. So that means the little small tabs above and below the house, as well as the little rectangular tab attached out on the end of the house. Then all 3 of those are going to kick under and glue to the card. And just another quick check to make sure that my center fold didn't slide. I want to make sure that is right in the center fold of the card. And then I kick those tabs under, making sure everything's straight, and attach them to the card. And then just a quick check that I can lift up the house right there and that I didn't pin anything down, so that's perfect. Then I want everything flat while I do the exact same thing on the other side. So the adhesive goes on top of the two small tabs as well as in the rectangular tab out on the end. Then all three of those tabs get kicked under and attached to the card. Okay, that is all there is to it as far as attaching it to the card. So now I get to start working to get the back and forth folds that are going to create the accordion look to this piece. So the first little fold there between those houses will be a mountain, then valley, then mountain. See, I'm just sort of trying to get the houses going back and forth. And then the outer parts are going to do the opposite. So I'll have a mountain here, valley, then mountain, mountain, valley, mountain. So kind of getting it started. If you look from the side, if you've got everything kind of going back and forth, then the card will do the rest of the work for you. You can just carefully close it and it will find all the folds and train them. So it really is quite a simple technique. You get that sort of double accordion going through the card. All of the decorator pieces will fit it that come included in the set. You just have 10 houses to decorate instead of 6. Okay, so one thing about how far out into the card this pop-up comes is that you actually have room to put in another layer of pop-ups. So I've got the leftover piece of stitched hill here from when I cut the ones for inside. And what I'm going to do is from below the card, I'm actually going to attach that stitched hill kind of attached to the outer section of houses on either side. So you can see it in there. Once I get that attached by just adding some glue to either end and then just going in there, I haven't put a fold in it. I'm going to let the card choose the location for the fold. So I'm just kind of putting it in there at an arc. And then as I close the card, it will actually put the fold in that piece for me so that now up behind the pop-up, I basically have another little floating bit of ground. And to that little floating bit of ground, I can actually add a row of trees. So that's going to give me even more pop-up layers in this card by just adding those trees to that little floating bit of ground inside the card. For this row of extra trees, I'm not adding the big leaf set behind the trees. I'm actually just going to add a few individual leaves here and there. And one thing I am going to need to do is just check for any limbs that are sticking up out of the card. If they do stick up, it's just easy to go in there with a pair of scissors and just prune the tree a little bit, trim some of those branches down until everything fits nicely inside the card. And then with just individual leaves here and there, I can really get that full forest kind of look behind my village. Okay, the House Pivot Panels die set comes with the little decorator houses. You get 2 of them. I've cut those multiple times to decorate each little section. And then to each of the windows, I added one of the small leaves. For a greeting, I went with Welcome Autumn from our Word Set 7 Autumn die set. And then to finish out the interior of my card, just one more tree. And this one attached actually to the pivot panels in the front there behind that center houses. And then to that, I just added a few more individual leaves. This is definitely the kind of card that's going to be displayed open. So for a card front, I just took my leftover materials and kind of made a simple lead-in that I can just attach to the front of the card, another one of the trees, little piece of ribbon. So despite all the layers, it actually folds down pretty flat and it will fit in a regular A7 envelope for mailing. So that's just an envelope for a 5x7 card. Because it is thicker, you probably will have to add the extra 15-cent stamp, but a card like this I think is worth it. I definitely encourage you to experiment with this technique. So I added my own row in the back so that I could put those bigger trees, but you also have room behind the pop-up to instead put a single pivot panels. So for instance, you could have the house pivot panels across the front and the evergreen trees in the back, or maybe a long train in the front. That would be really cute. So experiment with this technique. Maybe the left side and the right side are going to be 2 different pivot panels die sets. You will find everything that you need to know about supplies in the description box below this video, as well as a link to the blog post where you will find all the autumn inspiration by our team. Thanks for watching. If you click on the website link, you'll go to KarenBurniston.com where you can find out information about purchasing these dies, as well as links to all my other social media accounts. You can subscribe to this YouTube channel and check out some of my other videos. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.